Chapter 1: The Threshold of the Unknown. The Atlantic Ocean possesses a quiet, deceptive vastness. To the untrained eye, its surface is a monotonous expanse of blue, unbroken and indifferent. Yet, there is a specific geometry on the map, an imaginary triad suspended between the sun-drenched coast of Florida, the rugged cliffs of Bermuda, and the tropical shores of Puerto Rico. For generations, this line has been drawn not by cartographers, but by the vanished. It is called the Bermuda Triangle. To some, it is a mere coincidence of geography, a high-traffic maritime corridor where statistics simply catch up with reality. But statistics do not account for the silence. They do not explain the sudden, absolute cessation of radio contact, or the way the sea occasionally seems to swallow whole vessels without leaving a single trace of debris, an oil slick, or a floating life vest. When you look closely at the history of this region, the official explanations begin to wear thin. The water here is deep. The Puerto Rico Trench plunges into darkness further than almost any other place on Earth. But it is not just the depth that terrifies. It is the pattern. A pattern of sudden departures and incomplete stories. As night falls over the Atlantic, the water turns from azure to a deep, impenetrable ink. Vessels navigate these coordinates every day, their crews looking out into the dark, perhaps unaware that they are sailing through a graveyard of unanswered questions. The air grows heavy, the horizon blurs, and the mind begins to wonder what lies beneath the surface of the water and just beyond the reach of our science. The geographic boundaries of this zone span roughly 500,000 square miles of open sea. Within this perimeter, the ocean floor features unique topography, dropping from shallow coral reefs to abyssal plains almost instantly. It is a region defined by extreme environmental variables. The Gulf Stream, a powerful and swift ocean current, acts as a massive underwater river flowing through the western edge of the triangle. This current can easily carry away any surface debris within minutes, erasing the physical evidence of a maritime disaster before a rescue crew can even be dispatched. Furthermore, the weather patterns in this section of the Atlantic are notoriously volatile. Sudden, localized squalls can develop without warning, creating waterspouts and massive waves that dissipate just as quickly as they form. Yet, experienced captains who have spent decades navigating global shipping lanes insist that weather alone cannot explain the sheer concentration of anomalous events. They point to the peculiar behavior of the atmosphere itself, a heavy, pressurized stillness that often precedes a disappearance, where radio frequencies flatten and the horizon seems to dissolve into a uniform, gray wall. Chapter 2: The Lost Patrol. The modern myth did not begin with a whisper, but with a sudden, baffling disappearance that defied the military might of the world's greatest superpower. It was December 5, 1945. 5 Avenger torpedo bombers, collectively known as Flight 19, took off from Fort Lauderdale, Florida, for a routine training mission. The sky was clear, the pilots experienced, the aircraft meticulously checked. A few hours into the flight, the radio waves carried something unexpected: confusion. The leader, a seasoned instructor, reported that his compasses had failed. The ocean did not look as it should. The land looked unfamiliar. In the recorded transcripts, a sense of quiet dread creeps through the static. They were completely lost, yet they were supposed to be just off the coast of their own home base. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the transmissions grew faint, fractured by distance and an inexplicable atmospheric interference. The last fragments of words indicated they were running out of fuel, preparing to ditch in the dark, cold waves. What followed was even more chilling. A massive Mariner flying boat, carrying 13 crew members, was immediately dispatched to search for them. Within 20 minutes, it too vanished from the radar. No wreckage was ever found. No bodies. No oil. 6 airplanes and 27 men evaporated into the afternoon air. The official Navy report concluded with a chillingly honest admission: the aircraft vanished as if they had flown to Mars. The technical specifications of the Avenger bombers add another layer of complexity to the incident. These planes were designed to be incredibly rugged, built to withstand heavy combat damage and capable of floating for a significant period if forced to land on water. Each aircraft was equipped with self-inflating life rafts and survival gear. The crew members were highly trained in emergency ditching procedures. Even if one plane had suffered a mechanical failure, the probability of all 5 crashing simultaneously without a single pilot managed to transmit a standard distress signal is statistically near impossible. The subsequent search operation was one of the largest in peacetime history. Hundreds of ships and aircraft crisscrossed the region for days, examining every square mile of the Atlantic coast and the Bahamas. Investigators scrutinized the radio logs, searching for clues in the fragmented audio. The flight leader, Lieutenant Charles Taylor, was heard stating that both of his compasses were completely dead, spinning aimlessly. He believed he was over the Gulf of Mexico, a massive spatial distortion considering his actual trajectory should have kept him firmly over the Atlantic. The total lack of debris from either Flight 19 or the Rescue Mariner remains a definitive anomaly in naval aviation history. Chapter 3: The Ghost Fleet. Long before airplanes mapped the skies, the Triangle was claiming wood and canvas. The archives of maritime history are filled with logs of ships found drifting aimlessly in these waters, fully intact, yet completely devoid of human life. Consider the Ellen Austin, a grandfather of a vessel that, in 1881, encountered a nameless schooner in the heart of the Triangle. The ship was sailing perfectly, its sails catching the wind, but when the crew of the Ellen Austin boarded her, they found a ghost. The table was set for dinner, the cargo untouched, the personal belongings of the crew precisely where they should be. But there was not a soul on board. The captain of the Ellen Austin placed a prize crew on the mysterious ship to sail it back to port. 2 days later, a sudden, blinding fog rolled across the water. When it cleared, the schooner had vanished. Days later, the Ellen Austin spotted the ship again through a spyglass. Once more, they boarded it. The second crew had also vanished without a trace. Then there is the USS Cyclops in 1918, a massive coal ship carrying over 300 people. It left Barbados, sailed into the Triangle, and simply ceased to exist. No distress call was ever sent. The silence was absolute. It remains the largest non-combat loss of life in US Navy history, a monument to the fact that the sea can take everything and leave absolutely nothing behind. The phenomenon of the abandoned vessel presents a unique challenge to historians. In normal maritime disasters, a crew abandons ship because the vessel is sinking, burning, or compromised. Yet, in the annals of the Triangle, the ships are frequently discovered in pristine, seaworthy condition. Logbooks often end abruptly in the middle of a sentence, indicating that whatever occurred happened with such immediacy that the officers did not even have the seconds required to finish writing a word. In 1941, 2 sister ships of the USS Cyclops, the Proteus and the Nereus, vanished along the exact same route under identical, silent circumstances. Like the Cyclops, they were heavily built cargo ships carrying dense mineral ores. While some modern analysts suggest structural failure due to internal corrosion, the complete absence of floating debris, lifeboats, or even a single survivor from 3 separate, massive naval vessels suggests a common, catastrophic factor that operates outside the boundaries of standard maritime accidents. Chapter 4. The Whispering Compasses. If you speak to the captains who brave these waters, or the pilots who fly the Caribbean corridors, they will tell you about the instruments. Long before digital GPS, navigation relied on the steady, faithful pull of the magnetic needle. But inside the Triangle, the needle ceases to be faithful. This is one of the few places on the planet where true north and magnetic north align perfectly, a phenomenon known as agonic lines. To an uninitiated navigator, this can cause devastating errors in calculation. But the anomalies reported by survivors go far beyond simple mathematical drift. Pilots have described watch hands spinning wildly, digital displays flickering into nonsense, and compass needles rotating in complete circles as if caught in a localized whirlpool of energy. It is as if the very laws of electromagnetism loosen their grip within these boundaries. Christopher Columbus himself, sailing through these exact waters in 1492, noted in his journal that his compass acted strangely, and that a great flame of fire fell from the sky into the sea. When the foundational tools of human navigation fail, the line between reality and the unknown begins to blur, leaving the traveler entirely at the mercy of an unseen force. To understand the severity of this issue, one must understand how magnetic navigation works. The Earth's magnetic field is generally stable, allowing for predictable deviations. However, within the Bermuda Triangle, scientists have documented localized magnetic disturbances that appear and disappear rapidly. These are not permanent geological features fixed in the crust, but transient fluctuations that warp the local magnetic landscape without warning. When a ship's compass begins to swing erratically, it indicates a profound disruption in the local electromagnetic field. Modern commercial aircraft flying through the region have occasionally reported total electrical failure, where secondary generators fail immediately after the primary systems go dark. These incidents are often accompanied by unusual green glows on the cockpit instruments or static discharge crawling across the windshield, a phenomenon resembling St. Elmo's fire, but occurring under conditions where no thunderstorm is present. Chapter 5: The Blue Holes and the Deep. Beneath the rolling waves of the Bahamas lies a labyrinth that seems belong to another world. The ocean floor is scarred by blue holes, deep, vertical caves that plunge hundreds of feet into the limestone. From above, they look like midnight blue eyes staring up through the turquoise shallows. These underwater caverns are prone to immense tidal forces. When the tide changes, some of these holes act as massive oceanic drains, creating powerful whirlpools at the surface capable of sucking down small boats and swimmers. The water literally swallows itself. But the secrets may go deeper. For decades, sonar operators and marine researchers have reported strange anomalies on the ocean floor within the triangle. Some speak of vast, geometric structures hidden under millennia of shifting sands, structures that resemble walls, roads, and pyramids. Are these the natural basalt formations of a restless planet, or are they the drowned remnants of a forgotten epoch? Some theorists suggest that an ancient, highly advanced technology lies buried beneath the sediment, still emitting sporadic, powerful bursts of energy that disrupt the machinery of the modern world above. A sleeping titan, waking only long enough to pull the unsuspecting into the dark. The exploration of these blue holes has revealed a complex network of submerged tunnels that run for miles beneath the islands. These tunnels are subject to extreme current reversals. When the open ocean tide rises, it forces water into the cave systems with immense pressure. When it recedes, the water is drawn back out with a violent siphoning effect. This process creates massive, unpredictable surface vortexes that can destabilize even medium-sized vessels, pulling them downward into the subterranean darkness. Beyond the geological mechanics, the sonar readings from deep-sea expeditions continue to generate debate. In the waters near Bimini, a series of perfectly square stones forms a precise line along the ocean floor, resembling an ancient highway. While mainstream geologists classify this as fractured beach rock, alternative researchers note that the precision of the joints and the double layer of stones match the architectural techniques of ancient civilizations. If these structures are artificial, they point to a civilization that possessed a deep understanding of the Earth's natural energy grid, an energy that may still be active beneath the silt. Chapter 6. The Electronic Fog. Among those who have looked into the abyss of the triangle and lived to tell the tale, one phrase repeats with unsettling frequency: the electronic fog. In 1970, a pilot named Bruce Jernan was flying his light aircraft from the Bahamas to Florida. Shortly after takeoff, he encountered a strange, rapidly growing cloud that seemed to wrap itself around his plane. As he flew deeper into it, the cloud transformed into a perfect tunnel, a vortex of swirling grey mist that defied all meteorological explanation. Inside the tunnel, Jernan experienced a sensation of weightlessness. His instruments malfunctioned, the electronic needles dancing erratically. The radio could not pierce the fog. When he finally broke through the other side, he found himself not where he should be, but directly over Miami. A flight that should have taken over an hour had occurred in a matter of 25 minutes. His plane had somehow skipped through time and space, consuming far less fuel than physically possible. Science struggles to explain the electronic fog. Is it a rare form of atmospheric plasma, or is it a visual manifestation of a rift, a place where the fabric of our dimension thins, allowing those who enter to slip between the cracks of time itself? Jernan's experience is not isolated. Other aviators have reported encountering similar dense, luminous mists that appear to attach themselves to the wings of their aircraft. These mists do not behave like standard water vapor. They possess a distinct metallic sheen and appear to generate their own internal illumination. When wrapped in this fog, radar systems on the ground lose track of the aircraft completely, as if the vessel has physically exited our airspace. Physicists who study unconventional electromagnetic phenomena suggest that under specific conditions, the interaction between high salinity ocean currents and atmospheric ionization can create a localized electromagnetic vortex. This vortex could theoretically alter the space-time continuum on a minute scale, bending light, distorting time, and rendering objects invisible to conventional tracking systems. For those trapped inside, the world outside ceases to exist until the vortex releases them. Chapter 7. The Methane Breath. For every mystery, there is a faction of minds seeking a purely material truth. In recent years, Geologists have proposed a theory that sounds like science fiction, yet belongs entirely to the natural world: the breath of the deep ocean. The seafloor of the continental shelf is rich with methane hydrates, natural gas frozen under immense pressure and freezing temperatures. Occasionally, due to tectonic shifts or underwater landslides, these vast reserves can destabilize. When they do, a colossal bubble of methane gas escapes, rising rapidly through the water column. As the bubble expands, it turns the ocean into a frothing, weightless foam. A ship unfortunate enough to be floating above this eruption loses all buoyancy instantly. It does not capsize. It simply drops like a stone into the void, the water closing over it so quickly that no distress signal can ever be transmitted. Furthermore, if the gas bubble rises into the air, it can choke aircraft engines, depriving them of oxygen and causing instant catastrophic failure. It is an elegant, terrifying explanation. Yet, even this scientific answer leaves a lingering doubt. Does it truly account for the selective nature of the disappearances, or the strange temporal distortions reported by those who returned? The physics of methane release are well documented in laboratory settings. When a massive gas plume erupts, it drastically lowers the density of the water. Because a ship relies on the density of displaced water to stay afloat, a sudden drop in density removes the buoyant force entirely. The vessel sinks through the gas-water mixture as if it were falling through thin air. Once the gas dissipates, the ocean returns to its normal state, sealing the ship beneath the surface without leaving a single trace of debris. However, this theory fails to address several key aspects of the triangle's history. It does not explain why ships are frequently found abandoned but entirely undamaged on the surface, nor does it clarify the extensive electronic failures that precede many disappearances. If a methane eruption were responsible for the loss of Flight 19, it would not account for the hours of confused radio transmissions regarding spinning compasses and distorted geography that occurred long before the planes ran out of fuel. Chapter 8: The Sky and the Stars. When we exhaust the secrets of the water and the earth, our eyes naturally turn upward. The Caribbean sky is exceptionally clear, far from the heavy light pollution of major continents. But this clarity often reveals things that do not belong. The triangle has long been a hotspot for anomalous aerial phenomena. Long before the term UFO entered the modern lexicon, indigenous sailors and early European explorers reported lights that danced above the waves, diving into the water without a splash, or ascending into the stars at speeds that defied physics. Some researchers suggest that the Bermuda Triangle is not a geographical curse, but a terminal. A place where the magnetic anomalies create a natural gateway utilized by something other than humanity. The military presence in the region is immense. The Atlantic Undersea Test and Evaluation Center, or AUTEC, sits right on the edge of the tongue of the ocean in the Bahamas. Officially, it is a facility for testing submarines and sonar. Unofficially, rumors persist of deep-sea reverse engineering, of tracking objects that move underwater at hundreds of knots. The line between government secrecy and cosmic mystery becomes indistinguishable in the dark. The presence of AUTEC in the heart of the triangle is a source of intense speculation. This highly secured naval installation monitors an underwater canyon that drops to depths of over 6,000 feet. The acoustic capabilities of this facility are among the most advanced in the world, designed to detect the faintest sounds in the ocean depths. Yet, former personnel have occasionally broken silence, speaking of sonar contacts that move at velocities that violate the laws of hydrodynamics, traveling faster under the water than modern fighter jets can fly through the air. These transmedium objects, capable of transitioning seamlessly between the deep ocean and the high atmosphere, suggest that the region may serve as a corridor for advanced technology. Whether this technology belongs to a covert human entity or an intelligence originating far beyond our atmosphere remains a matter of fierce debate. The frequent military exercises and classified status of the waters ensure that whatever answers are discovered remain securely locked behind the walls of national security. Chapter 9. The Psychology of the Void. Perhaps the truest mystery of the Bermuda Triangle is not what happens to the ships, but what happens to the human mind when it enters the zone of silence. The ocean is a place of profound sensory deprivation. When the sky matches the water, when the horizon vanishes into a haze of heat and humidity, the human brain begins to lose its anchor. Navigators speak of a phenomenon called spatial disorientation, where up becomes down, and the instruments tell a story that the eyes refuse to believe. In the case of Flight 19, the leader was convinced he was over the Florida Keys, when in reality, he was hundreds of miles out in the open Atlantic. His mind rejected the truth of his calculations because the world around him looked wrong. The triangle breaks the confidence of the experienced. It introduces a quiet panic that erodes logic. But is it just psychology? Or is there a frequency, a low-vibrating infrasound created by the clash of ocean currents and deep trenches, that induces visual hallucinations and overwhelming dread? A sound that compels men to abandon perfectly safe ships, jumping into the dark water to escape a terror they cannot see, but can feel in their very bones. Infrasound is a low-frequency vibration that sits just below the threshold of human hearing. Environmental factors, such as high-velocity winds moving across deep ocean swells or the sudden collapse of underwater caves, can generate powerful infrasonic waves. Research has shown that exposure to these frequencies can cause physiological distress in humans, including nausea, acute anxiety, and visual distortions caused by the physical vibration of the eyeball itself. When a crew is subjected to this silent, vibrational assault, their capacity for rational decision-making degrades rapidly. In a state of unexplained panic, individuals may begin to see phantom islands or perceive their own vessel as a trap. This psychological deterioration could explain the historic instances of ghost ships, where crews seemingly vanished from perfectly sound vessels without their lifeboats. They may have fled an invisible, auditory terror that filled the air, choosing the cold embrace of the sea over the agonizing resonance inside their ship. Chapter 10: The Horizon Secret. We return to the surface, where the waves continue their eternal rhythm. The Bermuda Triangle remains an unsolved equation, a place where science, myth, and human tragedy are inextricably bound. Coast Guard vessels continue to patrol. Satellites monitor the coordinates from orbit, tracking every cloud formation and every swell. The official stance remains unchanged. There is nothing to see here. The ocean is simply a dangerous place. Yet, the questions remain, hanging in the humid air like the mist after a tropical storm. Why do the compasses still twitch? Why do the archives contain gaps that no historian can fill? The truth of the triangle lies somewhere in the space between complete skepticism and absolute belief. It reminds us that despite our radars, our steel hulls, and our global networks, we are still guests on a planet that keeps its own secrets. As the night deepens and the static of the world fades, the triangle waits out there in the dark Atlantic, a place of beautiful terror, where the horizon holds secrets we may never be fully ready to understand. For now, the water is calm, the stars are distant, and the mystery sleeps beneath the waves. The ongoing collection of maritime data reveals that despite advancements in satellite communication and real-time tracking, small aircraft and private vessels still disappear within these boundaries with an unusual frequency. The modern world likes to believe it has tamed the wilderness, that every square meter of the planet is mapped, monitored, and understood. But the triangle stands as a silent refutation of that arrogance. It forces us to confront the limitations of our knowledge. Whether the answers lie in magnetic anomalies, deep-sea methane reserves, atmospheric anomalies, or something far more esoteric, the region remains a modern wilderness. It is a boundary zone where the predictable rules of civilization fade away, leaving only the ancient, indifferent reality of the ocean. And so, the waters remain quiet, holding their secrets close, waiting for the next traveler to cross the threshold into the unknown.